In a time of exile and uncertainty, when the people of Israel were scattered far from their homeland, there lived a man named Nehemiah. He served as a cupbearer to the Persian king Artaxerxes, a position of great trust and responsibility. Though he lived in the comfort of the royal palace, Nehemiah's heart remained tied to Jerusalem, the city of his ancestors. One day, visitors arrived from Judah, eager for news. Nehemiah asked about Jerusalem and the condition of the people who had returned. The answer broke his heart. The walls of Jerusalem were still in ruins, burned and broken, leaving the city vulnerable and its people in shame. Hearing this, Nehemiah sat down and wept. For days he mourned, fasted, and prayed to God, confessing the sins of his people and pleading for mercy. Nehemiah knew that rebuilding Jerusalem would require more than sorrow. It would require action. But he also knew that he could not do it alone. He needed the king's permission. One day, while serving wine to the king, Nehemiah appeared visibly sad. The king noticed and asked, "Why does your face look so down when you are not ill?" With courage and prayer in his heart, Nehemiah answered honestly. He spoke of Jerusalem, the city of his ancestors, lying in ruins. The king listened carefully and then asked, "What is it you want?" Nehemiah prayed silently to God and replied, "Send me to Judah so I can rebuild the city." To Nehemiah's surprise, the king granted his request. Not only that, but he provided letters for safe passage and timber for construction. With the king's blessing, Nehemiah set out on a journey that would change history. When Nehemiah arrived in Jerusalem, he did not immediately announce his plans. Instead, he quietly inspected the city walls at night, assessing the damage. The destruction was worse than he had imagined. Gates burned, stones scattered, defenses shattered. But Nehemiah did not lose hope. He gathered the people and spoke with conviction. "You see the trouble we are in. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace." His words inspired them, and together they replied, "Let us start rebuilding." The work began with determination. Families worked side by side, each group rebuilding a section of the wall. Priests, merchants, goldsmiths, and ordinary citizens all joined hands. What seemed impossible began to take shape, but not everyone supported Nehemiah's mission. Enemies like Sanballat and Tobiah mocked the effort. They ridiculed the workers, saying the wall was so weak that even a fox could break it down. When mockery failed, they turned to threats and planned attacks. Nehemiah responded with both prayer and strategy. He said, "Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families." He stationed guards day and night. The workers carried tools in one hand and weapons in the other. Even in the face of danger, they refused to stop. Despite external threats, internal problems also arose. Some wealthy Jews were exploiting the poor, charging high interest and taking their land. When Nehemiah heard this, he became angry. He confronted the nobles and demanded justice. He reminded them that they were one people and should not oppress one another. The nobles agreed to stop their practices and restore what they had taken. Nehemiah led not only as a builder, but as a reformer. He refused to take advantage of his position as governor, and instead helped feed the people at his own expense. His leadership was marked by integrity, humility, and a deep sense of responsibility. After just 52 days, the wall was completed. What had once been ruins now stood strong again. The enemies were humbled, realizing that the work had been accomplished with the help of God. But Nehemiah knew that rebuilding walls was not enough. The hearts of the people also needed renewal. He gathered the people together in the square, where the law of God was read aloud. As they listened, many wept, realizing how far they had strayed. Yet Nehemiah encouraged them, saying, "Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." The people celebrated, renewed their commitment to God, and began to live according to his laws once more. Nehemiah's story is not just about rebuilding a city, it is about restoring faith, unity, and purpose. It shows that one person, guided by prayer and courage, can inspire an entire community to rise from despair. In the end, Nehemiah returned to his duties with the king, but his legacy remained in Jerusalem. The walls stood as a symbol of protection, but more importantly, The people stood renewed in their faith. The story of Nehemiah reminds us that no matter how broken things may seem, with determination, faith, and leadership, restoration is always possible.